So, as you know, Erie Hack is a program of Cleveland Water Alliance, a water technology innovation cluster based out of Northeast Ohio. And it has always been ever since 2017 and the iteration in 2019, and Paul's been with us ever since. It has always been our vision to bring together teams of creatives, coders, engineers, and water experts to create tech solutions to Lake Erie's biggest challenges. And we couldn't do that with all of our partners and sponsors. And so thank you from those from TechTown who are here today and from the other orgs we partner with for making Erie Hack possible. So this, this is where we're at the moment. And I realized that I forgot to give myself an introduction. So I'm Felicia, and I am the project coordinator at Cleveland Water Alliance. I've been the point of contact with everybody, the participants, most of the mentors, and Paul and our partners, everything Erie Hack related. So before I provide a rundown of how Hack Nights are going to work, I just wanted to continue with this overview of the Erie Hack schedule, along with a few other reminders and helpful tips. And right now we're at the Erie Hack timeline. We're currently at hacking time, and that includes Hack Nights as well as mentorship. So right now we are doing the Hack Night hosted by TechTown. And on Thursday will be our very last Hack Night, which will be hosted by Midstory. We also have a few Erie Hack workshops and webinars in the works, and that information will be coming soon this upcoming week. And then as far as mentorship goes, we have the mentors tab on Event Tornado where you can sign up for one-on-one mentorship. And there are some mentors with availability this week include Jen Grieser, Bobby Oliver, and Dr. Chris Winslow. And there are so many mentors available next week since we will not be hosting a Hack Night. And I'll be releasing a calendar tomorrow to provide more access to these mentors. And just a few team formation tips. Introduce yourself in the event chat if you haven't already. And just as a reminder, if you meet someone interesting, remember that you can send a direct message on the event chat and or Zoom. And then for those participating in the hack, you can use the video call function on Event Tornado once you've formed a team to discuss and work on your project. You can also contact me if you need a Zoom setup or anything that I can do to help you facilitate the team formation process. And just as a reminder, the team formation deadline is October 15th, which is a little over 2 weeks. So we really want to hone in on the development of our solutions. And then following that will be the regional quarterfinals. The one in Detroit will be October 19th, Cleveland's October 21st, Buffalo's October 26th, and Toledo's October 28th. And because this year is virtual, things will be a little different. Typically, it's very localized based on your city, but since teams can consist of members across the region, if you have a team members from Detroit, Cleveland, Buffalo, that will be how we choose which quarterfinals you are put in. So we will either place you in a Detroit, Cleveland, or Buffalo quarterfinal if that's where your team members are from. And then following regional quarterfinals, we will have semifinals on November 4th and finals on November 18th. And all this is also on the calendar that I will be releasing tomorrow. And finally, we don't want to go without mentioning the prize dollars. And first place will be $30,000. Second place will be $15,000. And this doesn't include the mini challenges that are currently being created and will be released soon. Finally, just as just how Hack Night will be run, I will soon pass the mic over to Paul, where he has brought in so many incredible mentors, and he's going to do a panel discussion with them to introduce some of Lake Erie's issues from a Detroit perspective. We'll have that until 6:30, and then we will have the participants will be able to discuss with mentors any questions that they might have about Erie Hack or about any particular concept that they heard today. So with that being said, Paul, I'm just going to pass that mic over to you now.
Thank you so much, Felicia, and thanks to Cleveland Water Alliance, you, Felicia, Brian, Max, the entire team over there. Of course, our other host cities across Lake Erie. Also our partners and our sponsors, as you mentioned, we couldn't do it without them, but also our coaches and all of the innovators, of course, who will participate this year and even over past years. So we send thanks to the entire Erie Hack family across Lake Erie Basin. So yeah, before we jump in, I know that, you know, the blue economy is something that is talked about and mentioned a lot, and something that's very important and a very unique asset in Michigan, and of course, very important to Detroit. It's, I think, coined and defined often as Michigan's, you know, natural water assets, our emerging water education, its research centers, and technology-based businesses or innovation that comes from a lot of the needs and the pressing issues and the challenges that face us, but presents great opportunities. So drives a lot of jobs and economic development, of course. And even to that point, just today, I think within even the last couple of hours, our governor announced, and I think this just goes to show the importance of the blue economy to everyone in our state and our key stakeholders, that our Michigan Strategic Fund just released an announcement of 11 communities that will receive grants for water-related infrastructure improvements to grow economic development, assist low and moderate income communities, to upgrade existing water, sewer, and wastewater public infrastructure. So this is just, I think, amazing, timely, and something that I think, like I said, goes to show how important this part of our overall Michigan economy, the water sector, is. So we have 10 great coaches tonight, and want to go into, like Felicia mentioned, maybe a quick kind of Q&A. I know that we have varying levels of subject matter experts in various sectors, some who are very knowledgeable about a wide variety of sectors, and some who are very deeply ingrained and educated in maybe even defined as subject matter experts when it comes to this water economy and our blue economy. So I'm going to start out with just asking, you know, what are some of the areas of innovation that you see as it relates to Lake Erie and the blue economy in general? Some of the opportunities that exist with respect to innovation and entrepreneurship in connecting to Lake Erie. And anyone feel free to jump in, or maybe I'll call, hey, Greg, why don't you give us a few thoughts? Because I know you've spent quite a bit of your time in this space and are very passionate about it. So give us your thoughts on your connection to the blue economy, or maybe even about, you know, what the business does, and what are some opportunities you see in the blue economy and for Lake Erie.
Well, I think the best way to sum it up is one of the greatest market opportunities in the world today, especially in regards to growth, is the water sector. And there's also in that sector the least amount of innovation out of any sector. They're just very adverse to risk. So the technologies and the innovations, I believe, exist for the most part, are in the marketplace. And it really comes down to more about psychology and how to drive that innovation and how to create a spirit or a culture of risk taking and focusing on what if instead of why not. We are not going to solve our water problems today with the thinking that created those water problems. And really, it's about looking at it holistically. It's not Ann Arbor, it's not Kalamazoo, it's not Lake Erie, it's the Great Lakes watershed. It's one system. We drew all the lines, right? The lines mean nothing. Those are just imaginary lines that we drew, and we really have to look at it holistically and stop looking at it like, oh, I have a problem here, in one specific spot. That problem is created somewhere else. That's just the result of another problem, right? And all we've done over the years is to actually just move the problem. And everything takes time, but we will innovate. Change will be driven in the marketplace. And one day we're going to look back and all water, all rain, which is an asset, is going to be either reused as potable water or infiltrated, and all waste will be turned into energy. And I really think we're at a momentous point in history where we're going to look back and going to go, well, who took rain, a great asset, built $1 billion worth of infrastructure, right? Put it into the ground, combined it with a bunch of waste, built $1 billion plant, and then shot it down to Lake Erie to make $1 billion problem, right? Instead, all we've done is treated those things as expenses. And how do we innovate and start treating them as assets? And all these ideas, they're nothing new. I mean, they're all over the world. They're turning waste into energy, right? They're mining waste, right? And they're valuing water. And I think one of our greatest challenges is we've had, in our minds, too much water, or a plethora of water in the state of Michigan. And thus we've taken it for granted from the Great Lakes Compact and having 20% of the world's fresh water. Yeah. So I think it's a great opportunity to innovate. And, it's just about driving ideas and, creating that change.
Yeah, thanks for that. That's great perspective. And I think it just highlights the fact that, it's all hands on deck, kind of approach. It has to be collaborative. And that's why Erie Hack, I think, is a great innovation challenge that drives the thinking behind collaboration, innovation, partnerships, filling gaps, and bringing anyone into this opportunity, not just environmentalists, not just water specialists, not just biologists, but everyone has a role to play. And Irma, I want to maybe turn to you, because I know that you've also had some experience even with Erie Hack. So we thank you for coming back and joining us again. But similar to the question, that we posed to Greg, tell us a little bit about, your perspective on Lake Erie, its importance, the blue economy, and how your work has even connected to that work, to that importance.
Thanks, Paul. So I work for the Sierra Club and the Great Lakes program. And our our goal has been to protect this really vital resource. And so to the challenge statements that speak to the combined sewer overflows and flooding issues and climate change, these are the things that we have focused on. And what we know is that if we do not protect this natural resource, those economic opportunities that we're talking about are not going to happen, or are going to be more of a challenge to occur. The clean water, having water that is the quality that we can drink, is it's an exceptional and something that we need to make sure that we are, as Greg said, not taking for granted. So the problems that we've tried to address, combined sewer overflows in particular, we're doing through green stormwater infrastructure. So things like green roofs and rain gardens and bioretention gardens and permeable pavement. These are all things that, if done right, will drive the economy, that green, that nature-based solution economy. And so, we like it because there are multiple benefits to the economy, as well as to the environment, to our water quality, but also for people. So we understand that, these greening features are also nearby nature, provide nearby nature opportunities. And you can really build upon social cohesion and this understanding the value of water through these practices that really speak people. Lake Erie is, the most productive of the Great Lakes. I'm going to turn my video off. Yeah, unstable internet. But, there's, opportunities. We have in the Great Lakes region an $11 billion fishing and outdoor economy. So with Lake Erie having more fish than all the other Great Lakes combined, if we're creating dead zones because of harmful algal blooms, that is a huge threat to our fisheries. And so, these things are quite connected, right? Sewage overflows result in phosphorus, loading. The phosphorus creates the feeds the harmful algal blooms. The harmful algal blooms create dead zones, which in fact affect the fisheries. So, the work that you're doing, this innovative challenge of Erie Hack is really critical to protecting this resource and addressing some of those issues. Also, if you think about like the Detroit River and the Rouge River are both tributaries to the Lake Erie, and they both have really significant industrial histories. So we've got contamination in the sediment. We've cleaned up a lot, but those rivers are both still areas of concern with beneficial use impairments. So the opportunities, to create solutions and find processes and tools to address the issues is pretty significant. And I wish all of you a great deal of luck.
I know you'll be in the fight with us, Irma, as you have been. So thank you so much for that perspective. I do want to kind of open it up, and this is, I think, something that all of us can weigh in on, because we've seen, particularly in recent weeks, major effects of climate change more directly, as of late here in Detroit, with immense rain and floods and precipitation. So for anyone to chime in and just give a bit of a perspective of what impacts have you seen personally, your neighborhood, friends, or in the headlines, or concerns that you've heard around, our water challenges and our water infrastructure. Anyone care to chime in there?
Yeah, I'd like to share a few thoughts, and I'm not nearly as well versed in this area as the other coaches here, and I'm grateful to be a part of this discussion. I feel like it's a great opportunity for me to learn a lot. And well, I just recently purchased my first home on the east side of Detroit, and since closing and moving in, we've had a series of floods in our basement. If anyone is familiar or is someone who's a homeowner or lives in Detroit, you might already know about all of the different things that's been going on this summer, and so yeah, my biggest questions kind of like piggyback off of what I heard from Greg and from Irma is really like my question is why, like what I don't understand is like how it got to be this way. And so it's like what, like just thinking about like diagnosing the root cause of these challenges that we face today is like, okay, like that's the process that I would want to go through. And then I think of, something that I heard way back when in the early days of, working in TechTown is, entrepreneurs are solutionaries. That's the best way that you could put it, really, is, entrepreneurs solve challenges. And so, for this discussion, I'm just curious to know more about that. How did we get here? What I see that there, are cause effect relationships between what's going on in this community and other communities and all of the Great Lakes. And I understand that it's an entire system that we have to look at, but I'm just curious to know, like, looking at the entire system, like, how did we get here?
If I could just jump in here, water is used as a weapon against the poor when it comes down to it. The highest land in the city of Detroit is Indian Village, right? Where they invested in infrastructure, we're in the highlands and the high property values. Not only does the higher lands have the infrastructure, right? But it's also shedding the water to the lower lying areas where the economically disadvantaged live. Now, this isn't Detroit. If you go around the world, the same story's been, it is true. I've been to 52 countries. I've been all over the world, and the wealthy take the highland, and it is, water's been turned into a weapon against the poor. And so if you live in Grosse Pointe, you have homeowners insurance, and the homeowners insurance is reasonable, right? You live in Detroit, the homeowners insurance for flood insurance is so unreasonable, you're not going to even have that flood insurance, right? So the economic impact of water, right, from your monthly water bills to your flooding in your basements, which the flooding in your basements lead to mold, which lead to your children being unhealthy, with asthma and some other issues, which lead to you having to take them to the hospital and you losing your job because you can't get off of work to take your kid to the hospital. So it's this economic trickle down effect. And it really comes down to money. That's the story of life, right? I mean, if you look at all problems of how they're created, it's all focused around money and the people who are in power. And the other aspect of it is the old model was all of the water departments were in the business of collecting water. They wanted more water. The more water they had, the more infrastructure they could bond, and the more employees they could have, and the more powerful they felt. Yes, I manage 6 billion gallons of water. Oh yeah, I've managed 10 billion gallons of water, right? It was kind of like a super race to who could build the most amount of infrastructure. And you could always bond out for it, right? So you got more powerful. Then all of a sudden, why this is all changing now is the EPA has stepped in and said, no. You actually have to incentivize people to not send you water. So we're in the middle of this paradigm shift of building billions of dollars worth of infrastructure to changing the model to, hey, don't send us water and manage your own water. Mm-hmm. The Chinese president said, we're never going to build enough infrastructure to manage the heavens. So what it comes down to is we need to figure out how to manage water when and where it falls as Mother Nature intended. Mm. So that's the origins of all of it. I mean, in my humble opinion.
That's great. That's awesome. Great kind of summary in a nutshell. I also saw, Stacy, it looked like you were just gonna give a bit of a perspective. You wanna chime in a little?
A little, yeah. Greg touched on it though. So where I was going with it was, water as a healthcare issue. Water touches every aspect of healthcare, and Greg talked about that a little bit. Clean drinking water, clean water that is seeping into our soil for our crops and growing our food. Mold issues or housing insecurity based upon flooding and issues and losing personal property. Job loss impacts health. So I look at water as just an all-around overall, health problem, period.
Absolutely.
If anybody is interested in learning more about water and you want to have your mind blown in regards to what we don't understand about water, we literally know nothing about water. We think we do, but there's a documentary and it's on Amazon. It's called The Secrets of Water. And you watch this and you'll understand why it is all about health. And it's not just about, the impacts of chlorine, the impacts of contaminants, the impacts of all of these things. I mean, water actually is, it's life, right? It's magic. And water actually has a memory. And we've got to get back to nature to solve our problems. But yeah, Secrets of Water. It will
Secrets of water.
absolutely blow everyone's mind.
Okay.
Can I respond, Paul, to Justin's question as well?
Yeah.
So, in terms of how did this happen? So in the 1970s, Cuyahoga River caught on fire, as did the Rouge River. And so the federal government created the Clean Water Act, or they updated the act that was there, and it became the Clean Water Act. And with that act came billions of dollars to upgrade our infrastructure. And so in the early 70s, then 68% of all infrastructure dollars were federal dollars. As of 2014, that was 9%. And so they gave us money to build it, but also building. Now, mind you, at the same time, we're creating the suburbs, right? So we're cutting down trees and we're developing over farmland and other land that was, as Greg said, managing stormwater where it fell and putting in all this cement and concrete and buildings. But then no money was given to help maintain it. Detroit started losing population a while ago, but even more so in the 70s and 80s. So now you have fewer people who are paying for the maintenance of the infrastructure. And we already have an affordability issue, so that maintenance was postponed. And you've got a combined sewer system, which was state of the art at the time it was put in, but now combined systems we know are problematic because they're combining sewage and stormwater in the same pipe. And then when there's so much rainwater, it overwhelms the system. And where does it go? To your basement. Or it goes through the outfalls along the Detroit and Rouge River with sewage and partially treated or raw sewage directly to the water bodies. So this is a financial issue. Now, what we see happening in the federal government right now is talk of giving $1 trillion, infrastructure, $1 billion infrastructure bill, because they're recognizing that with climate change, it's worse, and we don't have the to buy our way back out of this. It's going to be more. We're going to need a lot more, but it's a start.
That is fascinating. Thank you so much for that explanation. And you spoke of even, you talked about sanitation, and I've heard filtration, and obviously we've got the importance of data and analytics to be more predictive in our understanding of, being less reactive and maybe more predictive of some of these warning signs and some of these issues that we can hopefully get in front of. Leak detection and infrastructure using sensors and drones. And so I want to kind of maybe shift slightly and broaden the question, because I think many of the coaches here as well have experience in helping entrepreneurs to develop their business models. And in this case, obviously, we're talking about a water infrastructure or water challenge, water related challenges for this particular challenge, this opportunity. But I would love to hear other coaches just weigh in and just talk, because many innovators who participate will get a chance to on demand play this video. Feel free to please share some resources, some tips, some ideas. Many of you have been through more innovation challenges than you can count. What are some nuggets that you can share for those who are going to see this and participate in to increase their chances of success?
So Paul, this is Dom here from Oakland County. So I work with a team of individuals that are focused on sector development. So we're constantly looking at what are the factors that are driving specific industry clusters to grow in our state and in our region. As I think about the blue economy, some of the things that jump out to me as drivers of innovation in this space, and when I'm looking at where the resources are accruing, lead me to believe that there are tremendous business opportunities, as you mentioned. So, I look at the research environment in universities. I look at specifically the University Research Corridor, right, which includes Wayne State University, but also includes, Michigan State University and U of M and others who are, working diligently to do some of the water research that is underpinning innovation, that is, spilling out into companies that are doing this work. I think those entities account for hundreds of millions of dollars in research in this area. But I also think about the industries that are being driven by the water and by the blue economy. So specifically shipping. I think of shipping, I think of logistics, and all the activity that we all see, whether it's on the Detroit River, or on Lake Michigan, or Lake Erie, or anywhere else, and all the activity that is happening there, all the jobs and all the revenue that are supported by that activity. Certainly, I think of agriculture and manufacturing, which are huge drivers for the state in terms of employment and revenue. And then you can't forget recreation and tourism, which are important drivers as well. To me, it's how can we think about the factors that are driving the blue economy, and what kind of opportunities do they present for businesses that want to innovate and do good things and create a better environment for all Michiganders and all Midwesterners and folks in the United States in general. How can we leverage all these factors that are going on to create more opportunity and more impact?
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much. I know, Felicia, that we're getting near our transition time, but I do want to maybe just give the opportunity. And I love the fact that you guys have touched on the 3 water challenges for Erie Hack. One of those is community water resources, and we talked about affordability and environmental economic justice, surface water quality. We talk about microplastics and contaminants. And then we've talked about water and water infrastructure and the importance of stormwater and how we manage sewer overflow. To Justin's question that kind of provoked us to really, I think, take this conversation to another level. But Francis, did I see you? Yeah, please.
So, thank you for all the speakers, really informative. But we heard Greg telling us the technologies are here. We heard Irma telling us we have great solution for individual homes, greening and stuff like that. What I think we don't have is a culture of innovation within maybe the people that control these waters or the political element, which tend to rely on old models. The innovations are going to come from different business model, different way of taxing, different ways of doing things, not so much from the technology standpoint necessarily, right? So I think we have to blend that into the solution. How do we get the innovation, not necessarily from the technology, but how we tax on our home? What kind of incentive do we have to put this greening technology in our own driveway and stuff like that?
Love it. Both the policy side and the actual solution technology side. A kind of hybrid approach is going to be important. So
we still have about 10 minutes if we want to continue some of the discussions that we've had. If we have any other questions about or any other thoughts that we want to share.
I would say, I'll just reiterate in regards to my thought process in regards to the innovation existing. What doesn't exist, and we've touched on it, is the will to change. Everybody loves change until they're asked to change. And where I think a lot of the focus has to come in on is going to, the big engineering firms and the decision makers in these major organizations who have a vested interest in doing it the old way, right? Everybody knows, what was done in the past, but that's what's also created the problems. But so it's just that balance. But I think the real challenge here is psychology more than innovation.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. And in fact, that's one of the things I like about what we've heard tonight. So my wife, daughters, and I spent some time in Sedona, Arizona this summer. And we were being told about this reservoir of water that who knows how many years ago they discovered, and the enormity of it led everybody to believe that there is no way it would possibly ever run out. And that was the common perception, is this is our natural resource forever. And now they're having trouble. They're realizing that it's on the path to failure. And the biggest problem they're having is getting anybody to believe it. And I think here as well, you look around, you see the Great Lakes, and it's tough to believe that there's anything that could possibly be done to damage it to any extent. I think that that's public opinion. So I love the fact of, you know, of graphically illustrating it, of India, of actually showing that we're having challenges with invasive species. That was one of my questions is, what's the next step beyond that? We identify it, and then, you know, is there some sort of remediation or some sort of, you know, plan, or does that open up ideas for plans to fix it? But I agree with Greg. It's psychology. There's no problem. Have you looked at how much water we have around here, how, you know, beautiful it looks, how it looks just fine. And so that impetus to change, I think, is part of the equation.
I think I'm making up a number, but I like to make up numbers. I think it's 75% of the problem.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Greg,
But I'll tell you what you want to hear.
Greg, I would say if it's 75% of the problem is psychology, I would say 22% of the problem. I'll leave 3% out there for an unknown, but I'd say 22% of the problem is policy.
Right. Yep.
And you can't change policy until you change the psychology.
It could be the psychology of the politicians.
Well, boy, that's a road I don't think anybody wants to go down.
I think we just took up the whole 100% now, so went over.
Now we're at 132%.
I know.
Exactly.
Right. Fuzzy math.
But no, seriously though, policymakers can be influenced.
Right.
True.
We're voters, and they need us. But there is we talk about that in there's storytelling, you know, fine tuning the story, making it relevant, and tug at the heartstrings.
Well, Irma, that might go back to what Robert's trying to do by you know, being able to take that news and put it into either some type of pictogram or something that is much more manageable for the general public to really understand, and then have that influence their vote and have that influence who they're choosing to be their leaders.
Yes.
And I think if we're talking about change and the psychology, we think about change management, right? And awareness is always the first part of any type of change management. So bringing the awareness graphically or otherwise to really let people know there's a problem here, and building that desire through storytelling to want to make a change. I think that's highly critical.
And one other point is the model is already there. All we have to do is look to the Dutch, right? The Netherlands are leading the world. Why? Because they were underwater, right? We had so much water, we just took it for granted, right? They had so much water around them. And so watch The Secret of Water, and there's a documentary, just Google 60 minutes Dutch water. And a guy that I do some work with, who's the head of water innovation in the Netherlands, he basically says, only in his Dutch accent, he says, you you Americans, you're so stupid. When are you going to learn that you're never going to win? You're never going to win against the water, right? And you have to go back to nature. And the Dutch haven't had a flood since like 1954, right? And they go through this whole documentary and showing all the things that they're doing. And all the technology exists, they're doing it. We just have to we have to get out of our own way and just look to other people who already have best management practices.
Yep, good point. And Irma, you mentioned, I think, funding, right, for these different technologies and so forth. If you look at how much we spend on defense compared to circular economy and environment, talk about lobbyists. Let's get a fraction of that defense money. I think we'll be okay.
Yeah.
It's funny that you say that, because the United Nations, World Bank, the US military, everybody did, they put together all this money. The best dollar spent for the military is $1 towards water. Because if you have clean water, you don't leave your home to fight, right? water is the basis of everything. Because if you don't have, I gave a speech one time in a class and I said to a bunch of little kids, the teacher wasn't very excited. I said, what's more important, this water or your teacher? Right.
She didn't invite you back, I think, after that.
But the truth of it is, it doesn't matter how good a teacher is if you don't have clean water. Right.
Yeah.
It really doesn't.
You may not ever make it to the classroom.
Well, that was
I mean, you literally your brain, if you don't have access to clean water, your brain isn't healthy enough to absorb the information that you're being told to.
And
Well, that's the issue
add
with affordability.
maybe guys, some of the technology needs to be built around better lobbying, right? So not necessarily in the environment, but actually affecting the policy that we're speaking to for that change that is within the scope of this competition, right? More periphery, but that's probably more of a direct impact than anything else.
I think, Paul, you just got to make some, Paul, I just think you got to make some change now that you know everybody, and just make it happen.
Well, the cool part is you guys are stuck with me in this, so we're all along for the same ride.
No, I'm going to put it all on your shoulders.
No, you know what? But that's one of the points that I love about Erie Hack, and what we learned after the first year of competition is that we evolved the messaging to ensure that everyone understood that this was a challenge for us all, and that it was not his or her problem. It's also my problem, and that my is for everyone, irrespective of your background, your specialty, your level of education. All of that is out the door when it comes to the importance of our greatest asset.
Well, Fadi, what you said too about, looking at solutions to influence the lobbyists. Well, let's look at other. Okay, I always come from the perspective of healthcare because that's what I'm entrenched in. But it was, in fact, the healthcare professionals who identified the Flint water crisis because they saw the health of children being impacted. And it goes back to what you said, Greg. Those kids could have had the best teachers in the world. Their water was killing them. So we really, maybe by influence from other sectors to clean up the water, to do these things that help improve health outcomes, could be an influencer to lobbying. I don't know, just a thought.
So there's a big study out of Florida State. This PhD professor did this huge study on ancient Roman teeth. And what he determined, and what it's now, as I understood the thing, is one of the major drivers that brought down the Roman Empire was lead in the water. That's what brought down the empire, because people couldn't learn, they couldn't pay attention, they couldn't adapt, they couldn't change, they were sick. And they actually gone back and looked at, they've actually studied the teeth of the ancient Romans, and they can trace the lead levels in the teeth and directly corresponding with the fall of the Roman Empire. So that's how important water is.
Okay,
I bet your congressman would like to hear that.
Pardon me?
It's a good point to share with your Congress members. America, right? We are the greatest nation. But if we can be brought down by lead, then maybe they'll vote to replace all lead service lines, enough money to fund and pay for that.
Yeah, no, it's a
good point.
Yeah. No, yeah.
Well, on that note, we are running out of time, but I just want to thank you all so much for coming and having this incredible discussion. I've learned so much, and I can't wait for others to learn as well. And just as a recap, you can follow Erie Hack on Twitter. There's our website, and I've also placed our Cleveland Water Alliance information, the website, the Cleveland Water Alliance Twitter, and my email if you ever want to reach out. And if you have any other questions or comments or concerns, and I hope that everyone has gotten something out of this. It was an incredible discussion, and I can't wait to see what comes out of Erie Hack this year. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for being here. I thought we were going till 9. I guess not. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate
We
you
rolled into your
guys.
2-hour segment right now, Paul. So we'll just sit back.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for being here. Appreciate you.